The night before the wedding, my fiancé called. "I don't want to get married anymore, let's talk about it later." I opened my contacts and found the guy marked as first love. High-paying job offer for a groom. 10 seconds later, there was a notification. A regular, 10% discount. The stylist was working on the trial makeup. My assistant Amy was too quiet, so I glanced at her through the mirror. She peeked at me once every minute on average. "Spill it." Amy stiffened reflexively, trembling as she handed me her phone. It was from Sandy. Sandy is Mandy's assistant. My heart skipped a beat, and I hesitated. My eyes fell on the screen. Under Finland's vibrant aurora, a couple nestled together on the grass. Viewed from any angle, it was the perfect shot. I picked up the phone to check when it was taken. Fresh off the press. Yesterday Felix said contract negotiations got delayed and he couldn't make it back for the trial makeup. On the dressing table was his apology gift, a sapphire harp brooch. I picked it up and examined it for a long while, memories flooding back. Back in the day, Mandy wore a blue velvet gown, playing the harp at the Royal Hall, with Felix watching her from below, eyes full of focus and tenderness. The same look I used to have for him. From young love to a promising relationship. Unfortunately, fate played a cruel joke, preventing us from enjoying a respectful marriage. Love gained through scheming is like an illusion, impossible to grasp. The dressing room was eerily silent. No one dared to speak. Tears uncontrollably flowed from my eyes, smearing the black eyeliner into a mess. Amy's voice was a little shaky. "You can't trust photos entirely. When it comes to schemes, few can match me. Mandy's tricks are crude, not worth noting. But with Felix involved, even the simplest tactics could destroy me. What do you think of me? Be honest, I want to know." I pulled out a tissue and gently wiped my eyes. Amy pressed her lips together, seeming to think hard about something positive to say. "You're highly capable, you hold your ground in negotiations with men, they all try to curry favor with you. People say you're cold-hearted. But only with Felix do you soften, like a gentle woman." In the mirror, the stylist kept glancing at the jewelry on the table, her envy almost a natural state. I casually picked up a pair of earrings and asked her, "Do you like them? Want them?" When I tossed out the second question, the stylist's eyes lit up. Inside, there was a surge of eagerness. I called Amy over, handed her the earrings, and instructed properly, "Take them." As my hand retracted, the stylist showered me with a flurry of compliments. "Miss Gina, you're a powerful woman. When I do makeup for high society ladies, they never stop praising you. They all envy your exciting life, unattainable for others. In business, just a flick of your hand can shake the industry. Everyone says you're generous to others." In the mirror, her lips moved, an expert in the service industry, using flattery like this. There's no way to verify what others supposedly say. Her only goal is to make me feel good and reward her. High emotional intelligence, well practiced. Just like Mandy, fake. After exhausting all her praise and seeing I remained unmoved, she began to hint more directly. "You're very generous. Me, Gina, rich indeed, grandfather rich, mother rich, and capable of earning my own. While others long for a Hermes bag, before a new product officially goes on sale, every color is already lounging in my closet. Rare large pink diamonds coveted at auctions, all mine. Money is just a number. After all, I earn more than I spend. But I grow less happy as I've thought about time and again. Every time Felix gives a gift, it's like a stab to my heart. For instance, I love pink diamonds. It's been reported in the news countless times, and Felix never remembered. He's always given sapphires, Mandy's favorite." The stylist turned the topic to my jewelry. When there's nothing left to say, praising a woman's clothes, jewelry, or bag is a fail-safe routine at social events. Tired of hearing the same old words, I interrupted her. "Last Tuesday, I lost a gold bracelet. Wednesday, a pair of pearl earrings went missing. Thursday, a jade pendant vanished. The stylist's face turned whiter and whiter as she looked at me in disbelief. I gave her a slight smile. Worthless or not, they're mine. Unless I don't want them, no one can steal them. They've been touched by you, now dirty. Convert that to cash, 320,000, to be repaid in a week. She fell to her knees. Miss Gina, I got greedy. Please forgive me. I'll work tirelessly for you in the future. You just need to pay the 320,000. Do you think I'm God, having a debt wiped clean with a simple meal? Reality is cruel, that's why it's called reality. She was stunned, stood up. You're lying, even sold, they're not worth that much. I pulled out a stack of invoices from under the jewelry box. I can choose to go through lawsuits. If you lose, you'll also cover lawyer fees and litigation costs, or have your best friend help with this, a small matter. The stylist knelt again, sobbing. I left with Amy. In less than half an hour, Amy handed me her phone. She agreed. I pulled up a family photo of my father and thought, if I get Dad a new wife, would he praise me for being dutiful? Amy chuckled. Mandy certainly won't be happy. The whole family relies on John and Felix's support. John is my biological father and Mandy's uncle. Her aunt replaced my mom after driving her away. Childhood sweetheart Felix had a romantic affair with Mandy, ignoring our engagement. I tore them apart. The way I snatched him was how I lost him. Is one-sided love really worth it? The phone rang. It was Felix. I answered the call. A gentle, low voice on the other end said, Gina, I'm so sorry. Our partner backed out last minute and the project's delayed. We won't make it in time for the wedding. Let's postpone it and wait for me. Wait for him. I've been waiting for 5 years. Birthdays, Valentines, anniversaries, each time he'd give me a blue sapphire. Felix, it's getting colder. Tears dripped onto my phone screen, blurring everything. He responded lighter now, wear more layers. But all I wanted was a sweet word from him. To wait for him, to come back and warm my hands. Since I can't keep waiting, I won't wait anymore. I sat by the car window, crying until midnight, until all tears and feelings were spent. I took out my phone and found a contact named First Love and sent a text. High-paying job for a groom. 10 seconds later, my phone lit up. Regular customer, 10% discount. Just like when I first hired First Love, I'd worked with Henry before. Spent 100,000 and won my bet. Back then, Felix hugged me tight, wanted to be with me. This time though, I don't plan to bet again. Love I gamble on fades fast. 3 contracts were prepared on the table. Henry was strapped for cash. Any of these were offers he couldn't refuse. He hurried over with a suitcase, looking worn out, probably from life's pressures. I let him wash up, gave him a lace mask, then started to talk business. First, a nominal groom for a year for 50 million. Second, a nominal husband for 3 years to be the father in name to my child, 200 million. Third, a husband to have a child with me, at least 3 years, 500 million. Hearing 500 million, Henry sat up, eyes fixed on the third contract. 5 billion, what exactly does that entail? Gotcha. I hid my smile and used my negotiation skills to take control. Regardless of any deal, during the contract, you can't flirt with any woman. That's basic, or pay double for breach of contract. After the wedding, we get marriage licenses. Think it over, getting divorced makes it your second marriage. He nodded. His professional manner put me at ease. No domestic issues can arise in my business empire. I continued negotiating. The first 2 don't limit your personal life. Just keep a good image, no trouble. The third is more demanding. Don't meet the standards, don't sign. As the father of my child, genetics is key. You meet the height and appearance bars, but need checks for genetic flaws, diseases, and intelligence level. He removed the mask and opened his suitcase, pulling out some documents. It's all from a hospital, tests, just got them today. IQ test, genetics, health check, see for yourself. I looked over the report, skeptically sizing him up, feeling a bit played. But it was impossible. No one knew Felix would back out at the last minute, and he was scraping by. How could anyone foresee this? The report was clean. To be sure, I logged in to verify it was legit. I confirmed with him, once you sign, there's no backing out. Post-divorce, only the agreed payment is yours. Don't expect a penny of my personal assets. He relaxed, showing sharp canines. Rest assured, wife, I'm good. Just worried about you. I straightened up. J Group needs an heir. I wouldn't mind having a child with you. Henry signed the contract. Tonight, I'll stay here. I was caught off guard. This guy was way too committed. I pointed to a guest room. After we're married, we can share a bed. Tonight, sleep there. I just got out of a breakup. Let me adjust. Unhurried, he took a new suit from the suitcase. The material looked pricey. I'll get some beauty sleep. Be the most beautiful bride tomorrow. This morning, I hoped Felix would put a ring on my finger. And by night, someone else. Dating Felix, it was me chasing him. Calling it love was my way of comforting myself. We never had a proper date. We were often together, but mostly discussing some business project. This time, I didn't want to chase anymore. As I tossed and turned, there was a knock at the door. Henry brought warm milk. The glass was warm, calming my turbulent thoughts. Something on your mind? He seemed to see through me. This guy had a kind of magic. I felt it deeply the first time we did business. I couldn't hide anything from him. Or maybe it's his top-notch professional acumen, totally understanding the client's needs. Right in time. Try on a ring. I let him in, took the box out of the safe. Felix's custom rings were all blue sapphires, Mandy's favorite gem. But I didn't love them. So, I secretly ordered pink diamond sets. His and hers. Even knowing he wouldn't wear them, I still ordered each size boldly. Henry stared at the rings, his lips moved without sound. He picked one, fitting perfectly, 100% match. He raised an eyebrow, teasing, rich people problems? I got his point. Just one fit is enough, but I had to go flashy. To show I wasn't just a spoiled rich kid, I patiently explained. Once my husband wears it, this design will sweep the whole country. The rest are limited editions, prices will only go up. Sell them on the market, totally profitable. Henry laughed bigger, so I'm gaining value too. Yes, marrying me you lose nothing except becoming a two-time fiancé. What if we don't divorce? I didn't quite get it at first. Not divorce? But this contract marriage was always meant to end in split. I seemed to blunder, never planning contingencies. Not divorcing doesn't sound bad. With a property deal set, no fear of asset grab. No profit disputes, spending a lifetime like this isn't bad at all. Being a couple for life, I'll treat you well. I'm the last one left in my family, need heirs, the more the better. Just don't step out on me. If true love strikes, tell me in advance. Besides 500 million, I'll compensate more, but you can't take the kids, they're mine. He fiddled with the pink diamond. A beautiful and capable wife, you earn and provide, I stay home, drink from your cup, handle the kids. I almost choked on the milk, sputtering a bit. Others will talk behind your back, all sorts of nasty stuff. He looked up, eyes smiling, you can protect me. My heart skipped a beat, I made this promise. No one can bully Gina's man. He was pleased, holding out his hand, ring. I stared a few seconds, then got it. Women's ring, tomorrow he'll put it on for me. The pink diamond ring finally had its moment. Why was I so fixated on the pink diamond? You got a sharp eye, spotting the pendant hidden around my neck. You've crossed a line. I pulled up my collar, hiding the pendant. This was my little secret. The next day, the wedding ended amidst an uproar. All sorts of rumors flew around, plenty of mocking looks too. I didn't care. A person who controls their destiny doesn't bother with others' opinions. They were still respectful to my face. But Felix's family got wind of it. Mrs. Green stood by my doorstep, looking stern. "Gina, you're too reckless. Felix only said to delay, he didn't say he wouldn't marry you. Why would you marry someone else?" I handed over the contract. It didn't affect the collaboration between our families. With this, Felix could comfortably remain the heir. She read it over carefully several times. "Felix messed up, he'll apologize when he's back. You really live up to your title as a business queen, keeping business and personal matters separate." A shame. I smiled, raising my hand to interrupt. "I have one condition. You can't provide any assistance to John and Mandy. If you break this agreement, Mike will replace Felix." To be clear, I signed another contract with Mike. It's weighty enough to shake Felix's status as heir. Of course, if you stick to this agreement, Mike won't cause any big waves. In just a few seconds, Mrs. Green's expression shifted from relief to shock, then outrage. "Everyone says you're as sly as a fox." Mrs. Green knew what needed to be done. I was looking forward to everything being in order when I returned from my honeymoon. She couldn't help but stand, her voice sharp. "Was it a fake wedding? Men are like clothes. If they don't fit, change them." After seeing Mrs. Green out, I turned around to find Henry standing at the foot of the stairs, looking dazed. He looked oddly pitiful. "Do I fit?" I lifted his chin. "We'll see." But come nightfall, I was feeling down. Henry emerged from the bathroom, his robe revealing a defined collarbone, muscles contrasting beautifully. With each step he took toward me, I pinched my hand a little harder. "Honey." His voice boomed in my ear. "Maybe I should let him have the room, and I'll take the guest room." He might have sensed my discomfort because he chuckled softly, having second thoughts. We were already married. I let out a breath. For the heir, I'm risking it all. As he leaned in, I felt like ants were crawling all over me. "Wait." He paused. "If you're scared, we can wait." "Who's scared?" Have you been circumcised?" My eyes glanced downward. I did my homework. It's healthier to start after that's done. I'll cover the surgery cost. I mentally steadied myself. Delaying a few more days shouldn't affect the heir plan. "Yeah, get it done." I started shaking again. Might as well just lie flat on the bed, holding my breath. He leaned over. "Hold on." I sat up hastily. I'm used to looking down on others, not the other way around. You lie down. I'll pay more." Henry, being the professional he was, went along more than I expected. He obediently lay on the bed like a fish ready for the taking, eyes full of tenderness. In that moment, all the courage I had gathered crumbled. Now what? Never been close with a man, totally unprepared. Face got hot, heart started racing. A thought suddenly flashed. I'm young, no rush for kids. I quickly escaped the bed, got unfinished work. "You rest, we'll head to Egypt for the honeymoon tomorrow." Whatever expression he had, I didn't catch it. I dashed to the study as fast as I could. I collapsed onto the floor, drenched in cold sweat. Our family had only me left. No matter how big the business grew, in 10 years I'd grow old with no one to carry on. Mom was an only child too. When she fell for my poor dad, she broke ties with her family to marry him. She overestimated human nature, until Maria walked through the door with an illegitimate daughter older than me. That afternoon, my dad tossed the divorce papers at Mom. I'd had enough. Mom looked at him calmly, said nothing, asked for nothing, and took me back home. Freed from the shackles of love, Mom's business skills soared. Her empire expanded rapidly. People said she was magnanimous, never seeking revenge against the family even after dominating the business world. Only I could hear the muffled cries from her room night after night. Her health declined. Until that incident extinguished her life's flame. Morning came. Outside, Henry's warm voice snapped me back to reality. Sitting on the floor for too long, my legs were numb and aching. I struggled to my feet, using the wall for support, and opened the door. I wobbled, falling into his arms. Sorry. It was awkward. Apologizing to a husband? He chuckled softly, scooping me up to the couch. Cramp, let me help. His hands rhythmically patting, the movements slow and steady, a few strands of hair falling over his forehead. The side lighting softened his features, stirring something inside me. Sensing my gaze, he turned slightly, eyes lifting. You can rely on me. A strange emotion bubbled up. He might be my legal husband, but aside from a week-long contractual fling, we didn't know each other well. I pursed my lips, hesitating. Sorry, I'm not ready. Can we wait till I sort things out? Henry's eyes darkened, a look of relief surfacing. Unsure of his thoughts, I was about to offer more money when he spoke softly. I haven't been with another woman. No bad habits. Want a date? Suddenly he leaned closer, a fresh woody scent teasing my senses. My brain blanked, thoughts unraveling. Gina. Henry took my hand, his voice once again full of sincerity. We're legally married, why not give it a try? Uncomfortably, I shrugged, stammering, just got my heart broken. Still, getting over it. Henry stared at me for a while, then released my hand, cupping my face. Look at me, no talking, no blinking. Seconds stretched out like painful trials, wanting to end quickly yet fearing the skin-piercing moment. My heart pounded faster, chest visibly rising. I instinctively tried to avert my gaze, firmly held by him, my eyes landing on the rise and fall of his throat. He suddenly pecked the corner of my mouth, pulling away instantly. Feel that? The urge to kiss. Contractual dating, wedding, and kissing. All went to Henry. Honestly, it's pathetic, but I needed to buy love. When Henry first came into my life, I was chasing Felix hard. No response from him. But I couldn't keep stalling, the family business needed most of my attention, plus I had to produce an heir. That first love seemed destined to be epic. I made sure the media covered it from every angle, it was all for Felix to see. Just when I was about to let go, he came up to me with red roses. Gina, let's give it a try. I don't remember Henry's expression. I just recall that because the effect was so good, I overpaid by $100 grand, but he returned it all. He said I could contact him if needed, so I didn't delete his number. Back then, I was blinded by love and ignored Felix. Felix had a half-brother who often sabotaged him. At his lowest, Mandy left him to go abroad. I was his only turning point. Marrying me, the richest woman in Country A, solidified his position. Dating me was more about benefits. Once he was secure, he started missing his first love. This relationship brought me nothing but pain. Luckily, Henry was still around. The trip to Egypt was booked on the wedding day. Felix originally wanted Mauritius, but since he wasn't the groom anymore, it was up to me. I noticed Henry was quite interested in Egypt too, sharing facts about the pyramids the whole way. The math, geography, and astronomy used in pyramids surpass modern science. Archaeologists found symbols resembling UFOs and modern aircraft. Pyramids have a mysterious energy that preserves perishable items almost as well as a fridge. I stopped and gazed at the majestic structures ahead. Henry, do you believe in extraterrestrial life? Of course, you can't deny their existence just because human tech hasn't reached that level. His tone was calm. He held my hand, suggesting we share a bed but partition it to bond. We checked into the most luxurious hotel, and it was peak season. Fortunately, a regular guest freed up a few days in a luxury suite facing the pyramids. Standing by the panoramic glass wall, I felt an unexpected sense of belonging looking at the view. I'm not good at housekeeping, relying on Henry for everything. While he wasn't looking, I took off my necklace, rubbed the pink diamond pendant, and made a wish. To forget Felix soon, to be a good wife to Henry. I stared at its light for a long time, but nothing changed. My heart sank. The divine meddles in everything but love. My phone rang. Felix's name appeared on the screen. I hit decline, but it rang again, like it was being stubborn. Decline. Ring. As it kept flashing on and off, memories of my tangled youth with Felix flooded back. In investments, losing money to prevent further loss is smart. In love, it's like pulling a knife from your heart, leaving you half dead. He disregarded our engagement. Out of anyone, he chose to be with Mandy. I'll never forget the day Mom returned from the hospital. Felix arrived with Mandy, insisting on breaking our engagement. After they left, Mom was rushed by ambulance again. When she woke, she begged, "Gina, we don't need Felix." Unfortunately, I didn't listen then. The phone kept ringing. Henry stood at the door, glanced at the shining screen. "Honey, face it bravely." His intense gaze seemed to say that if I didn't pick up, I'd never gather the courage to end things. I looked up, feeling defeated. "Go inside, close the door, or you'll distract me." Henry nodded, took a step back, closed the door. I hesitated and then tapped the screen. "Gina, don't be stubborn." His voice was urgent, but I stayed silent. If I let go, he counts for nothing. Yet Felix hadn't realized it. "Where are you?" "I've set up a press conference. Let's clear things up with the media and reschedule the wedding." I loved him so humbly, he thought a fool waited for him to return. Pathetic, disgraceful. "Felix, what now?" "I'm married." Silence on the other end. Clutching my phone, tears mixed with heartache, I didn't want to deal with Felix anymore. Letting go means indifference, ignoring. Just as I hovered over the hang-up button, Felix's voice trembled. "I'm sorry. I'll make it up to you for the rest of my life. Let's find a time to talk. No need to dwell." I called out to the other room, "Darling." Henry immediately opened the door and loudly replied, "Honey." Hanging up, I stood there, dazed. Stuck in a mire, hoping for Felix's love. Did Henry catch on? My emotions were a whirlwind, the alertness honed in business mixed with the delight of finding a confidant, drowning me like a tidal wave. "Regret it?" He looked down at me, seemingly calm, but his eyes sparked a light in the gloom. I leaned into his arms. "He doesn't matter anymore." Through the thin fabric, Henry's hand rested on my shoulder, icy cold yet his chest radiated warmth, breaking barriers and seeping into my soul. "Gina, I'm glad," his deep voice resonated above me. "Henry, I need time to start something new. Can you wait? I'm improving every day, but I can't use you as a crutch." His arm froze for a moment. After a few seconds, he spoke lightly, "I've always been here. After traveling in Egypt for 2 weeks, I've come to rely more and more on Henry. He knows every corner of this place. He shares stories that even professional guides don't know. He's led me through every hidden alley, helping me try all the local delicacies. Once, when the water was cut off and I was stuck with shampoo in my hair, he rushed to get a few buckets of drinking water to rinse it out. I'm used to living alone and am all about paying for good service. I can easily tell if someone really cares. After my parents divorced, I lost my dad. Later, when my mom passed, there was no one left who truly loved me. Felix, he was my fiancé, why did he fall in love with someone else? What's wrong with me? Am I really that unlovable? These thoughts make my eyes sting. I sniff to hold back tears and pick up my phone, pretending to read financial news. Henry lifts a lock of my wet hair and playfully shakes a hairdryer. "Wearing a dress today?" Without thinking, I reply, no dresses. My closet's full of suits, I can't lose face doing business with men. Do you want to? I want to say yes. Who doesn't want an easy life? But first, I'm the heir of my family. To the outside world, I'm the feared boss lady. I have to be tough and professional. He suddenly turns off the dryer and sits down next to me. Gina, live for yourself. I shake my head, the bitterness overwhelming. No need to get serious about a contract marriage. If you start acting so genuine, I won't know how much to charge. Getting too involved risks losing my mind, and the J Corporation can't afford that. He stares silently at me. I can't read his emotions. After a long pause, he asks, his voice hoarse, acting? The air feels heavy. While his professionalism is comforting, I've always been taught that ease leads to death, stress to survival. I can't allow my thinking to deviate. Henry looks defeated. He glances at me, his eyes dimming without a word, and sighs before walking out. I sit there, confused. Is disappointment also an act? It shouldn't be. When he comes back, I'll give him a bonus to make up for it. But he doesn't return for dinner. Did he get lost or kidnapped? I toss and turn in bed until the early morning. I pick up my phone, hesitate, then bite my lip and hit call. He picks up quickly. Henry, where are you? I'm not coming back tonight. Sleep on your own. His voice sounds a bit dry. I grip my phone tighter, just about to deny waiting for him when I hear a sweet voice in the background, come over. I don't catch the rest. Next thing I know, I've tossed my phone out the window. I peek out, it's pitch black below. Whatever. I can always buy a new one. He's gone, but the pillow remains, so I kick it furiously. I sit back, planning how to minimize the fallout from a divorce. He broke the contract by fooling around. He should pay up. But the honeymoon's not over, and going public would harm the corporation too much. Whether he can even afford the penalty is one thing, but it wouldn't even cover the market loss. The only option might be to kill him. The thought shocks me. I spend the night wrestling with it. It's worse than when Felix called off our wedding, awake and asleep in turns. I wake up groggy, unable to settle. I shuffle out to the living room after hearing a noise. What the? Turning the living room into a fashion showcase, there are racks everywhere loaded with the season's collections from at least a dozen brands. It's so packed I can't turn around. I call out, Henry? He pops his head out from between the racks. With a smile, he beckons, come try on some clothes. I quickly refuse. No, I'm not wearing that. Turning to head back to bed, he stops me, why not try? Gina, you can. Just then, I'm engulfed by the rich scent of wood. Henry hugs me from behind, I picked them out all night. His voice is full of quiet grievance. I shrug off his arms. Don't use me as an excuse. You're breaking the contract early. He goes rigid, silent for a while, then bursts into laughter and hugs me again. Through my robe, his arm muscles press in awkwardly. I can't shake him off. I start to kick back in defense. Henry, don't think you can fool me with rich girl tactics. You can't handle the consequences. His chin rests stubbornly on my head. At that moment, something lifts inside me. Jealous? I pause and think for a moment. Maybe I did overreact. It's not my problem who he sees off contract. My concern is potential scandals affecting the company's stock. Who's jealous? I told you when we signed the contract, no messing around, or pay double. Gina. He softly calls my name, his cheek resting on mine. It was the mall manager. Last night was closing, staff were there. The woodsy aroma floods my senses, nearly turning my world upside down. What scent are you wearing? It's making me woozy. I feel dazed. Henry pauses, then laughs heartily, you can smell it? I nod weakly. Fatigue seeps in as he lifts me, cradling me in his arms as we head to the bedroom. A strange thrill takes over, like a spell, sending my mind into a flurry of alarms. No. As the scent fades, I regain my senses. I grab Henry. Trying to drug me? Are you suicidal? I pat him down, remembering he didn't leave my side the entire time. He's got to have it on him. Despite searching him all over, I find nothing. He gently tidies my messed up hair, giving me a meaningful glance. It's not a drug. It's hereditary. This scent comes out when I'm moved, and only couples in love can sense it. I take in his words. My brain clicks an idea together. You're trying to fool a child. I'm skeptical but intrigued. Prove it, or it's your usual low tricks. He bites back a grin, looking focused and innocent. If things get out of hand, don't blame me. I watch intently, not daring to relax, eyes locked on him. No funny business. His gaze fills with desire, rising rapidly. His breathing turns ragged, and for a moment, it feels like our hearts are colliding through the air. Unbridled, as if filled with mysterious strength. The scent washes over me again, making me flinch. I cover up quickly and bolt out of the room. I shout, "I'll let you off." I dash to the furthest part of the living room. He stood at the bedroom door, looking like he had something to say but didn't, then walked dejectedly into the bathroom. The prenup with Felix wasn't without its risk assessments, so I could make a quick decision that day. Even though the groom wasn't him, the company's stock actually went up a bit. I misjudged Henry. Facing him, I only retreated. Who is this guy, really? As my eyes scanned the array of clothes, I realized that even in my own store, I couldn't just keep it open all night. He came out after washing up and sat properly across from me. I pointed randomly, letting out a small hmm. I wanted to see him try to brush it off or give a reasonable explanation. The golden rays of the morning sun spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting very few unerasable shadows. With the backlight, his face seemed cloaked in shadow, hiding a secret he couldn't speak of directly. "I have shares, I can support you." More questions bubbled up. Could a freelancer in the marriage market actually earn more than my corporation? When he said that, he seemed so calm, it was hard to tell if it was true or not. "So you don't really need to sign any contract?" Henry stood up, took a dress from the rack, and held it up in front of me. "There's no other way to marry you." I was stumped for a moment. We barely knew each other. Other than paying him 10 grand to play my first love for a week, we hadn't had any private interactions. I'm sure I didn't have any transfer records. He lifted his eyelids, appearing very calm, but his ears were visibly turning red. Love at first sight. Truth. A subtle glimmer flashed in Henry's eyes, focusing on my neck. Feelings grow over time. By then, I was sure he was just making it up. "Tonight, I'm going back home, and we'll divorce once I land." As I turned, he grabbed me. "At 12, you hoped your mom would move on from her issues. 13, you said you'd marry Felix someday. 14, when you were kidnapped, you wanted to live, to protect your mom and the Jiang family. 15, after your mom passed, you cried all night. In the morning, you dried your tears, telling yourself you could be strong alone." By the time he finished, I was already a sobbing mess. "I'm a bit afraid of you." It was like having a knife at my throat, my deepest secrets grasped by someone else. Henry turned around, placed his hands on my shoulders, and in his eyes, a shimmering pool of deep water circled, showing only a thin layer of clearness. "Gina, you have to face your fears to take control." It sounded familiar, but my mind was a mess, blurring where I'd heard it before. Piece by piece, he tried clothes on me, taking one step forward, making the rest of the path not so hard to walk. I sniffled a little. How can I command those men wearing this? If I'm not intimidating, I get intimidated. I obviously can't be bullied. No girl can resist a beautiful outfit. After sticking to traditional suits for about 10 years, I finally slipped into an ethereal dress. Henry got a stylist who braided 2 small pigtails for me. In the mirror, the gentle, charming look was something I had imagined many times. He held me close and murmured in my ear, "My wife is so beautiful." This was the only colorful moment in my otherwise dull life, a ripple in the still, lifeless water of my existence. If I could, I'd preserve this moment forever. "Henry, I can watch you leave, but I can't handle betrayal or deceit." He didn't answer, just handed me a new phone. "There's a signal. To replace what you lost." I tried it out, and it was actually my old number. I turned to him. "It was my fault, not informing you beforehand. Next time, don't throw your phone when you're upset. You might need it in an emergency." He was apologizing, but I noticed a hint of satisfaction. I was annoyed, punched him twice playfully. "Are you happy seeing me like this?" He smirked, lifting my chin, then smothered me with kisses. "I like it, like when you're jealous." "No, I'm not someone who gets jealous. This guy, it's like he can see through everything, nothing stays hidden." Thankfully, my mind is quick. I quickly changed the topic, pointing at the phone. "You didn't pick this up bit by bit from the bushes, did you?" Henry seemed a bit embarrassed. "Yeah, it was from the bushes, by people I hired." I gave a sly smile. "Since I wouldn't know otherwise, why not just say you found it yourself?" He suddenly lifted me up, pinching my small pigtails. "Want a bike?" Downstairs, a brand new bicycle with a crossbar wrapped in a layer of soft padding awaited. Henry stood holding the handlebars, feet planted on the ground, motioning toward the crossbar. "Come on over." I stared at him, disbelief in my eyes, unable to contain my emotions. I leaped into his embrace. "It's you, you're real." Tears blurred my vision, and before I could wipe them away, Henry sat me on the crossbar, pedaled forward, and the wheels hummed, wind whispering past my ears. The only person who knew my secret was him. It was him all along, Henry, my newlywed husband. When I was 14, John's funding chain broke. Debtors couldn't get anything from him, so they turned their eyes on Mom, whose business was thriving. After school, there was no car by the roadside as usual, but Maria unexpectedly showed up at the school gate. She was fully covered, wearing oversized sunglasses. If she hadn't spoken, I wouldn't have recognized her. On the phone, she asked me to talk to Dad, saying it was visiting time, and she would take me there. I tried reaching Mom, but just couldn't get through. Maria's expression was off. "Your dad's in the hospital, he wants to see you." After nearly a decade without contact, suddenly remembering he had a daughter felt fishy, like they were taking advantage of my age. My eyes glanced past the windows, which were tinted, so I couldn't see through, but a few vague silhouettes were noticeable inside. They didn't seem friendly. I looked around. Most students had already left. Running outright wouldn't work, but there's surveillance inside the school. If I ran through the backyard and hid in the forest, I'd be safe. Maria saw me take off my backpack, reached enthusiastically to grab it, and in a split second, I swung it hard at her head and bolted towards the school gate. Help. Kidnapping. As I dashed through the gate, my gaze flicked toward the security room. It was empty. My heart raced. If Maria dared attempt a kidnapping at the school gate, they must be desperate. I must survive. Mom has only me. Chaotic footsteps chased me endlessly from behind. "Maria, there's surveillance." "Damn kid, thinking that can stop her. Clean up the footage." She jumped the wall. "Hurry up." The evening breeze whistled through the forest. I shivered involuntarily, trying to stay quiet. Tears trickled down. "Mom, I'm scared." Strange beasts kept howling nearby, and I instinctively curled into a ball, thinking it might make me less scared. The idea of getting caught by them was terrifying, so I decided to wait them out. If I didn't come out, they'd eventually leave. I went 2 whole days without eating. Cold and starving, I was suddenly hit by something. When I opened my eyes, it was a fruit. I grabbed it and took a few bites. It was really sour, but it kept me going. Just then, a gentle male voice called out nearby, "Sorry, this is all I found." His voice was so soothing that the tension in me started to ease. I looked around, but there was no one. "Who are you?" I asked. "Take this," he said. "I'll be looking out for you." A pink diamond appeared in my hand out of nowhere. It shattered everything I thought I knew, making me realize I was dealing with something supernatural. He didn't like being called a god, and after trying out several names, he finally accepted being called my teacher. Following his guidance, I skirted around the kidnapper's perimeter and escaped through another route. Wandering through the wilderness alone, his encouragement in my ear got me back to my mom. The case ended when the leader of the gang was caught, but they were loyal. They wouldn't give up Maria, even though everyone knew she was behind it all, but no one could touch her. When Dad heard about it, he made a brief appearance, glossing over the details. That once mighty man who carried me on his shoulders to feel the wind was now a stranger. Mom said nothing, but her eyes were filled with emptiness. Not long after, she was diagnosed with a severe illness. The powerful woman who ruled the business world couldn't escape the curse of love, and she passed away. It was him who stayed by me, teaching me to handle the beasts of the world. By the time I was 18, I took over J Group and began seeking revenge against John and Maria. When I turned the company into a leading industry, he mysteriously vanished. This unseen savior seemed like a heaven-sent guardian who left when his task was done. I didn't think I'd see him again. "Henry, why didn't you show up sooner?" "Liar," I said, telling him how tough it's been, and he just held me as I pounded on him. "Gina's strong, you stood up without needing anyone," he said. Teacher turned husband, I blushed when I saw Henry respectfully bow his head. With a softer smile, he said, "I want a wife, not a student." The air filled with a faint woody scent. I stepped back, not daring to meet his gaze. "Just wait," I started. "I'm barely over Felix, and I've always thought of you as my teacher. It's a bit much to suddenly see you as a partner. He gets it and respects me. Otherwise, just that fragrance would have been enough to let him do whatever he wanted. At first, I just wanted a good heir. But now, I can't bring myself to take that last step." I sat 2 meters away and said, "Teacher, I'll work on seeing you as a real partner before we..." Henry chuckled, a bit mischievously, "As you command, wife, but we must stay close to build our relationship." I couldn't help but chuckle at this childishness, yet a sense of anticipation crept up. I quickly pushed down those feelings and explained that running a billion-dollar company leaves little time for romance. He said, "No worries, you work, I'll be by your side quietly." His words made me realize he wanted to come to the office with me. No way, absolutely not. What if someone saw? Warm breath hit me as I looked up at his amused eyes. "I'm stern at work, you'd get scared," I joked. It didn't matter in front of Henry. As soon as he landed, he held my hand in broad daylight, introducing himself to the pressing reporters. "I'm Gina's husband, please step aside." He tucked me against him, playing up to the reporters. One asked, "Your wedding announcement was with Felix. What's going on?" I considered getting feisty, but Henry just checked the reporter's ID and called security. "We have a fake reporter here." The man panicked, "I'm real." But Henry told him, "Pass along a message to Mandy. There's a subpoena coming. Felix might have thought my wife was rich enough to target. She only loves me, especially not your plastic face." Reporters buzzed with congratulations as Henry linked fingers with me again. He pointed to his cheek, playfully asking for praise. "A kiss there." In the car, I stole glances at him, his profile perfect and irresistible. He noticed, smirked, and whispered, "All yours, take a bite." "I'm not. I'm respectable." My long-time relationship with Felix never went beyond hand-holding. They were rare and mostly initiated by me. During the first attempt, his reflex turned a romantic gesture into a formal handshake. My heart turned to stone eventually. Even though Felix seemed perfect on paper, puppy love, an ideal match, it boiled down to two words: no love. Felix never loved me, no matter how hard I tried. Letting go was a gift to myself. Henry, let's try tonight. My face is burning hot and I quickly turn my head to look out the car window. His warm hand rests on my waist, and he's getting closer. Honeymoon compensation? His voice sounds a bit resentful. Half a month into the honeymoon, we've kissed only a few times. I've been avoiding him. But it has to be accepted eventually. I nervously try to explain to him. It was all too sudden, and I couldn't adjust. You can't just swap one guy for another when you're heartbroken. That wouldn't be fair to you. Lately, I've been telling myself every day to forget Felix and fall for you sooner. He turns my face towards him, locking eyes with me in the dim back seat of the car. Those eyes are especially bright in the darkness, full of warmth and kindness, hard to look away from. That's how Felix used to look at Mandy. I was always jealous, dreaming he'd look at me like that. I don't agree. He smiles, refusing, poking my heart with his fingertip. Not until this belongs entirely to me. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. My heart had been in my throat, fearing he'd back out of the marriage agreement. Glad he's a decent guy. There's this unspoken understanding we reach in our eye contact. When I got back, I handed over all the connections with Felix's company to my project team. I used to spend a lot of time personally managing things to get closer to Felix, sacrificing quite a bit for progress. He despised the dirty tricks in business, so I'd secretly smooth out everything, and all the credits went to him. His career soared, and Mandy started showing interest again, occasionally popping up through his buddies. In the end, the man I helped build supported another woman. Everyone, please assess the continued cooperation with Felix. Don't let my personal issues affect the company's interests. I made my stance clear in the decision-making meeting. I gradually took back everything I'd given him. As expected, Felix showed up the next day. He had a bunch of red roses in hand, and his expensive suit did nothing to hide the weariness on his face. Gina, we need to talk. Glancing at him briefly, I kept my head down, working on my files, silently mocking myself. Sharp in business, blind in love. Felix, if it's about work, talk to Manager Ma from the project team. If it's about feelings, it's unnecessary. My time is valuable, you can't afford it. Felix moved forward, thrusting the roses into my arms. I was wrong last time. Mandy was in trouble, she's just a helpless girl, not like you. You're in control of everything. I feel safe with you. My nose tingled, tears forced back. How did I waste my youth on someone like this? Disappointment and regret choked me. I couldn't speak. What peace do you need beside my wife? Looking towards the voice, Henry stood in the doorway, backlit and almost glowing. My heart skipped randomly, almost thrilled. He didn't look too pleased, staring at me disapprovingly, his gaze falling on the roses. In that instant, they were like hot potatoes. I reflexively tossed them aside. Sorry, lost in thought, didn't handle it in time. My head hung low, sneaking a glance at Henry. He was holding a thermos. Lunch delivery? While I was guessing, he strode over, placed the thermos on the desk, and wrapped an arm around my waist. Felix, Gina is a married woman. Mind your boundaries. His voice got more serious, clearly upset. I tugged on his sleeve, shaking my head pitifully. Darling. My voice came out, instantly giving me goosebumps. Sweet talking, what is happening? I'm a business queen, a tycoon, I wasn't myself a second ago, definitely not. But their reactions, Henry's mouth curved into a big smile, the anger in his eyes vanished, and his arm tightened around my waist. Felix's expression froze, his gaze flickering between me and Henry, filled with disbelief. Gina. His voice trembled, wanting to say something but holding back. Felix, I'm really married. The moment I said it, the bittersweet feelings tangled through my youth lifted, disappearing completely. I didn't love him anymore. Felix seemed struck, slowly turning to walk to the door, his defeated figure fading. I called after him. He paused, turned back quickly, his face regaining some expression. A sharp pinch at my waist, I tilted my head to meet Henry's eyes. He was angry again. Just returning his stuff, nothing else. To show my determination, I led him by the hand to the safe, pulled out a jewelry box, and handed it to Felix. The sapphire you gave, never wore them, all brand new. Here's your stuff back. Felix's face paled visibly. He shoved it back into my hands. I never take back what I've given. Henry took the jewelry box, forcefully tossed it back to him. My wife doesn't like it. She prefers pink diamonds, the ones I got her. I nodded in agreement. I hated sapphires. Maria wore them breaking up my parents' marriage. Mandy wore them stealing my childhood fiancé. I treated you wholeheartedly and got humiliated each time with sapphires. I tolerated it because I cared, until you bailed on our wedding, made me a laughingstock. Seeing you alive is being law-abiding for me now. Leave, your bad luck. After Felix left, I wrapped my arms around Henry's neck, seeking praise. Happy now? He pushed me against the wall, kissing overwhelmingly. But just as he was about to undo my waist belt, the door knocked. Gina, the Y Group contract is here. He slammed his fist into the wall as I composed myself, smoothing my clothes back down, casually sitting at my desk. Amy entered, took a quick look as if she'd seen a ghost, head low to the ground as she handed over documents. After she left, Henry was back, pressing against me again. Not now, work time. He chuckled lightly. They know, you know. Huh. Only when he handed me a mirror did I realize my face was covered in lipstick marks. No wonder no one dared to come near my office all afternoon. We finally became a real couple. The next time seeing Felix was half a month later at the Y Group banquet. An international top-tier firm entering country A caused quite the stir. I secured a small project with them before the wedding, eyeing further cooperation. Their attitude was vague, not rejecting, but not confirming anything either. The banquet drew businesses from all over country A. Everyone was smiling, but behind the scenes, they were all opponents, hoping for each other's downfall. J Group was first with a minor cooperation with Y Group. Unexpectedly, so many people tried getting intel, Henry protective at my side, steering clear of collisions. Pretty soon, piercing jeers came from the crowd. Gina's so embarrassing, choosing a country bumpkin as backup. Felix doesn't want her, she's always acting all high and mighty, running around with men, but isn't really feminine or masculine. Who'd like her? If I were a woman, I'd like Mandy. All Gina cares about is making money, she's so tacky. I heard she found her husband at some White Horse Club. Henry's hand was trembling slightly. Even though it was subtle, holding his hand, I could feel every bit of his emotion seep into my heart. I squeezed his hand back firmly. Don't be afraid, you're my husband, and I've got your back. It seemed to work. Henry's face gradually softened, and he even tried to comfort me. As your husband, I couldn't help you and instead got us both mocked. Seeing him force a smile made me feel guilty. He doesn't like social gatherings and usually avoids strangers, but he put himself out here for me. They're just a bunch of jealous people, envious I married a handsome guy. I casually swept my gaze over the gossiping crowd, silently noting their names, planning to pick one to make an example out of. I called Amy over and whispered something in her ear, and she soon stepped away. I returned with a glass of red wine on a tray, only to find that he wasn't where I left him. While I was looking around, Felix approached with a smile, and I quickly turned away. Gina, he called. Though his voice wasn't loud, it drew enough attention that all the gossiping eyes turned towards me, fueled by curiosity. What a bummer. Unaccustomed to heels, I moved too slowly. He caught up in a few strides, grabbing my wrist. I couldn't shake him off. Let go. Let's talk, he said, looking slightly fatigued. You don't want to attract attention from the Y Group executives, do you? That was a dirty trick. The last thing I wanted was to disrupt an event as grand as this one and be accused of causing a scene. 5 minutes. I shook his hand off and walked outside. Fine. Outside, I kept my distance from Felix. When he tried to come closer, I stretched out my hand to keep him at bay. I'm married, keep your distance. His eyes darkened inch by inch. I'm sorry. For minutes left, I reminded him, flashing my phone's countdown timer. Felix paused, his smile turning bitter. Gina, I've fallen for you. One more word and I'm gone. He dropped his head, then looked up again after a few seconds. He isn't right for you. It's not worth ruining your life just to punish me. Trust me, if you're willing, I can arrange it all, and we can start over. I put my phone away and walked off. My husband and I are happy. No one's cheating here, so you don't need to volunteer to be the other man. How can I earn your forgiveness? He pressed, forcing me to think on my feet. Marry 5 brides from prestigious families in 1 year, and I'll forgive you. Back inside the hall, I caught a glimpse of Henry. He was talking earnestly with a petite girl, so focused he hadn't noticed me. I silently slipped away, a wave of bitterness washing over me. He must be fooling around. Distracted, Amy approached me after finishing her task. All set. I raised a hand, cancel it. Originally meant to boost his status, now I just wanted to trample it. Amy gave me a long, scrutinizing look, then continued. Fiona moved quickly. It took a moment to recall who Fiona was, the ambitious makeup artist. She's hooked up with the old guy? Amy's eyes were filled with gossip. She's pregnant, not even a month yet. She's got skills. Help keep it quiet. Once the baby's born, tell Maria. It's better for her to squeeze out a bit of benefit than let Maria enjoy her high life. Throw a couple of projects the old guy's way, help him climb higher, the higher the fall, the funnier. After wrapping up, Amy forced a smile and carefully probed, Miss, have I wronged you? If I have, it was short-sighted of me. Don't worry, blame me if you like, no need for you to waste your mind on it. I watched her leave, a tinge of sadness filling my heart. After experiencing a life wrapped in happiness, who wants to sulk in bitterness? Henry returned, sitting close to me. I shifted aside quietly. I could still smell a faint fragrance. Was it from her? Noticing a curious expression on his face, he caught me looking. Is there something on my face? I smiled silently back, but my mind started racing, planning a way to break free from him. I'm really sorry for bringing you here, he said. His smile suggested he understood more than he let on. I was sure he was hiding something. You can deceive me for money, but not with feelings. I hate being lied to, I whispered in his ear. I'm afraid if I lose control, I'll ruin the liar. I showed a pure, innocent smile as I spoke, evoking that long-ago feeling when the old man and Maria ascended into society. As expected, he visibly tensed. I'm frightened. I calmly raised an eyebrow and sat up straight again. Do you know why I haven't dealt with Felix? Sure, Henry stammered. Felix was your first love. Giving him face, he said. I shook my head, nope. He quickly added, in the past, you pursued him, so you lived with the consequences. Even if you eloped, you still honored the contract and supported him. It's not about kindness or largeness, it's because you don't care for him. What about Mandy, my kidnapper Maria, and my father? Figure those out too. Henry wiped his forehead, appearing even more uneasy. Mandy doesn't even register. Mentioning her is time wasted. Your mother's death means timing for revenge doesn't matter, yet you're bent on discovering the way to make them utterly miserable. You rave them of desire, then snatch it all away. I leaned my head on his shoulder. You really know me. He steadied a bit, sighed deeply, and after a few seconds, I've done something wrong and don't know how to say it. Can you forgive me? Cheating? Faking love? A secret child? I put a hand over Henry's carotid artery, staring into his eyes. Each question probed my bounds. His pulse remained calm, gaze steady. Initially, it seemed truthful. "All right, I forgive you." He gratefully held my hand, shifting it from his neck. "You even know this?" A classic CIA lie detection method, used in business negotiations to study your opponent's psyche. "I trained once, it's a handy skill." "My man, your body and mind must be mine alone." "Can you do that?" "If you'd rather not, it's not too late to walk away. But if you choose to stay, and dare betray, even if you're divine, I'll erase your existence." He looked at me with adoration, holding me and kissing repeatedly. "I'll do it. You want east, we go east." I struggled to catch my breath from his kisses, feeling both embarrassed and annoyed. He had no regard for the Y Group's gala setting. Thinking of catching a Y Group executive, I had to push him away and made for the restroom to compose myself. Just as I closed the door, I heard Maria's voice. "Mandy, Felix went after that wretch again. Didn't you notice? He's been glancing at her longingly. We might have been too harsh that day, ruining the wedding just piqued his interest. What's the point of talking now? I just wanted to embarrass her. Before, I had always held back. But she went and got herself a male escort for real. The Fun family looks down on us. If Felix doesn't marry first, I might never get into that family. I need to find him another woman, preferably one with a temper. It'll be easier for me to marry him once they divorce." I pressed play on the recording. Listening to the 3-minute audio sent a chill down my spine. I paused for a while, regained some strength, and returned to the banquet hall. My gaze accidentally landed on Felix. He was surrounded by executives, some discussing business, others matchmaking. After taking over the Fun Corporation, he grew more mature with each passing year. Unlike when he was young and wore his emotions on his sleeve, now he's calm, composed, skillfully navigating the world of fame and fortune. Yet, he feels more and more unfamiliar. As I hesitated to give him the recording, Henry suddenly stepped in front of me, his gaze complex and deep. "Come with me." I slipped my phone into my handbag and let him lead me forward. "Where are we headed?" "The banquet is about to start. Don't make me miss it." "A secret." He maneuvered skillfully through various peaceful paths, surprisingly avoiding interruptions. I grumbled discontentedly, "We're trespassing on someone else's territory, not good." Henry couldn't hide his smile, seemingly plotting something. A woman's intuition is always spot on. In a corner surrounded by vines, I experienced a soul-stirring passion for the first time. Checking the time, the banquet had long ended. "You jerk, you messed up my business." He seemed in an excellent mood. The courtyard was exceptionally peaceful after the event, the moonlight more dazzling than the streetlights. I wondered if it was just my imagination, but it felt like there were eyes watching from the woods. I turned to look, but saw nothing. Leaning closer to Henry, "We won't get spotted, will we? We're married, why worry?" The emphasis on married caught my attention. It sounded like he was speaking to someone. I thought carefully about the recording. It wasn't my place to give it to Felix. He was smart enough to find out eventually. Mrs. Green wasn't one to be messed with, plotting against her son. She'd make them suffer if not worse. Besides, she had something I needed. Getting the Fun family involved was the best revenge. In the following days, I didn't pay attention. Until that night, right after working out with Henry, an unknown call came through. "Gina, quick, get to the one, Felix is drunk." I yawned, recognizing the voice of Felix's brother. Not my concern. I was about to hang up when the caller started cursing. "No wonder they say you're ruthless. You don't even recognize your father. Giving up on Felix is nothing." That was harsh. I was left at the altar, branded a scorned woman, yet everyone blamed me. It's not that I don't argue, I just never win. And arguing changes nothing. Revenge isn't won by shouting. I like to strike where it hurts. Exhausted, I just wanted to sleep. Let them scold me, I'd deal with it later. A shadow flashed and Henry snatched the phone, gently patting me. Sleep. I heard him talking on the phone but couldn't make out the words. I mostly just felt him rubbing my waist, prompting a few unconscious murmurs from me. People soon believed we were truly married. No more snarky remarks from others. I misunderstood him at the Y Group's banquet and couldn't clear things up for him. He was clever, knowing how to leverage influence. Maybe it was that phone call that got Felix's social circle abuzz. Felix's group wasn't doing well lately. I hadn't even taken action, yet his friends seemed to provoke someone, bringing endless trouble, especially the one who insulted me. I heard they nearly faced bankruptcy. Perhaps it was karma. Even harsher than if I handled it myself. The Fun Corporation made some changes too. However, its foreign ventures were thriving, shifting focus. A few months later, feeling unwell, I went to the hospital, pregnant. Henry was over the moon, barely leaving my side. One look at my water cup and he'd have prepared tea at my lips. New nutritious recipes kept finding their way to the table. If I cramped at night, he'd cheerfully massage my leg. Parenting knowledge was mostly his domain. He'd tell jokes to lift my spirits. I teased him with his seriousness. Once the baby comes, I'll lose my top spot. Henry's face changed. You'll always be number one. I smiled. Life was what I'd always dreamed of, never imagining I could have a happy, complete family. Why compete with the baby? During the checkup, the doctor said it was twins, a boy and a girl. Henry pulled out a wad of cash and had Amy give it to everyone she met. I transferred money to his account, whispering, "You manage the finances." He didn't hesitate, setting aside money for the kids, but leaving more for mommy than daddy, not stealing my thunder. I wondered, weren't the Egypt projects paused? With this spending, we'll go bankrupt. Men value dignity. He treated me well, so of course, I considered him, already planning to find projects for him to manage. He went to get the reports. I remained alone in the VIP lounge. The door opened. Assuming it was Henry, I called, "Back so soon?" No response. The next second, I heard the door lock. Something felt wrong. Turning in alarm, before seeing the intruder's face, a cloth covered my mouth. My eyes, heavy as lead, closed uncontrollably, consciousness fading bit by bit. I lost all awareness. When I awoke, I lay in a tightly sealed room with a small window above. My head buzzed, the drugs wore off partially. I struggled to get up. A pair of hands helped me, and I looked up. Felix. As memories returned, I remembered the moments before I passed out. Did you dare kidnap me? Did your finances collapse? That's the only reason I could think of. Back then, I schemed tirelessly for him, too afraid to admit efforts, never giving myself credit, not delivering a single flower as a result of my behind-the-scenes work. Without support, he faced everything himself, realizing the value of everyday necessities. Never dream of cheating me for money. His eyes met mine, filled with undisguised guilt, perhaps even longing. You're in danger. A surge of anger erupted in me. Feet firm, I stood to confront him. Did someone put a knife to your throat? Apart from blindly chasing you, I've done nothing to wrong you. Instead of feeling grateful, you blame me? Planning to silence me? Being enclosed, the room's natural lighting was poor, yet I could see Felix's emotions flicker into defeat. At that moment, the bottled-up grievance overflowed, tears spilling out. I never used to cry. Maybe it's Henry's care that made me so sensitive. It wasn't just me. Felix was as clueless as I was, staring at the constant stream of tears on my face, looking like he was conducting some serious scientific research. Is it rare? I didn't use to cry because there was no shoulder to lean on. Yeah, Felix really likes seeing women cry. When Mandy cried, he didn't hesitate to cross half the world to comfort her. Burning the midnight oil on a project proposal can't beat a few tears. Copying that tactic, I should cry more to Henry. Strategy is key. Thinking this, I immediately stopped the tears. Can't waste them. Gina, it's my fault I hurt you. You're too smart, you don't need me for anything. So, not loving you feels like even breathing is a mistake. I silently remind myself that arguing is a waste of life. Felix continues, looking sentimental. I thought I'd never have feelings for you, but these days, you're all I see. Even escaping to another country, missing you becomes harder every day. Come back, I'll make it up to you for a lifetime. His words were full of sadness and suddenly his face changed, filled with fear. That guy isn't someone you can control. He's dangerous. I was momentarily stunned. Although Henry has always been gentle and caring, I can't deny I've never truly seen through him, but in front of him, I have no secrets. Seeing me thinking it over, Felix reached out and hugged me, his voice trembling. I don't care, I'll treat your baby like my own. His body shook, as if afraid of something. What's going on? My gaze moved toward the ceiling, seeing we're in a secluded mountain village. Felix sighed, looked around nervously, and whispered, Gina, don't worry. I'll protect you. Leave Henry, he might not be human. Seeing me standing there, he pulled me to sit on the bed. At the Y group dinner, he took you to the backyard, I followed. When you two started. I wanted to stop you, but some force controlled my body, I couldn't move. It was him, he did it. I opened my mouth, feeling unbelievably embarrassed. My life's messiest moment spilled out of Felix's mouth. Are you serious? Watching us like that, then going to all this trouble to tell me, did I wipe out your entire clan in a past life? His eyes were bloodshot. I couldn't see anything, even my eyes were controlled. I just heard everything. I only recovered after you left. Hearing this, my hanging heart finally relaxed. I adjusted my posture, we're married, can do whatever we want. Felix, I wish you well, since I've genuinely cared. You're doing well means I have good taste. His eyes showed hesitation, guilt weighing them down even more. He covered his face with his hands, letting out choked sobs. You should hate me. I don't hate anyone. Just like when you left me at the altar, marrying someone else was the best solution. Resentment does nothing but torture oneself, it doesn't punish the culprit. Usually, I choose direct revenge. I never expected you'd want to save me, so the past feelings weren't in vain. If you can, please do me a favor. As I stepped out the door, Henry was kicking stones under a tree. I walked over with a smile, took his hand, and headed home. He tightly pursed his lips, pulling me into a tight hug. Do you trust me? If Felix can see it, why wouldn't I understand? Except for heartbreak or cheating, we can work everything out. I've long since uncovered Henry's secret in our everyday interactions. Who knows if the baby will inherit the special ability? Taking this chance, I boldly asked Henry for a few big projects. Watching the surging stock lines, I felt awesome. My gaze drifted to the large screen in the plaza across, showing the police escorting Maria back in. That's when my phone rang. The long string of numbers was Mandy's number. Gina, I hate you. Felix couldn't do this to me. Too bad, he did. In high society, who doesn't hold a secret of someone else? Maria's kidnapping evidence has always been with Mrs. Green. When I sent Mrs. Green the recording of Maria plotting against Felix's wedding, she was livid. Throwing someone into hell with a hand that once offered hope, what better revenge is there? John's funding chain was abnormal. Father was elated with his newborn, his career and new love were at their peak, overloaded by the 2 projects I gave. Things came undone the way they were gotten. Issued a presidential order, granting all employees a special bonus.